started this about 6 years ago. Brought me to the point now in my retirement where I have occasional craft shows of my own, and I'm invited to speak at garden clubs such as yours. And I think, who would have thought this? When I had those pressure-filled days sitting behind a desk with a pile of HMO contracts waiting to be reviewed. But life is full of wonderful surprises. And I love this because I meet so many nice people. I don't know about you, but I think gardeners are just nice people. There's something special about us. Yeah. I think it's the love for the environment and for the earth. And, I never met a gardener I didn't like. I really didn't. So today, that's enough about me. My goal, the presentation today is, first of all, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My presentation is twofold. First, to share my knowledge of what I have learned with you about pressing and preserving flowers. And secondly, is to hopefully encourage or inspire any one of you who only wanted to try it, but really didn't know where to start. So hopefully that will happen, even if it's just one or two of you. Now, to get along, start with the program. What I'm going to do is pass some of these are all pressed flowers. Now, every flower that I press, every single flower or leaf, comes from my garden. I press flowers all summer long, and I'm a little fanatic about it, to admit to you. Well, you'll see, quite a bit fanatic. And then I'll go through the process of collecting and pressing, and hopefully, if it's appropriate, I'll do a little demo, and answer any questions that you have. I prepared a handout for you, which lists the materials you need for the craft, also the flowers that press well. Now, I think this is a valuable thing to have. I wish I had had something like this, because not every flower presses well. So I have a list of flowers that press well as those that do not press well. But what's not on that list, ladies, is patience. And that you can't grow. It has to come from yourself. You've probably all heard of pressing flowers in books. Well, I don't have the patience. I have patience, but I don't have patience for that. I can't wait 4 or 5 or 6 weeks for my flowers to dry. So one day, I thought, well, Lydia, at the end of the season, you put basil and parsley into your microwave. Now, why wouldn't a flower work? So I set out to experiment, and what I do is this. I collect my flower, and I try to collect flowers while they're early in their bloom stage. In other words, if my let's say a lobelia. Well, lobelia lasts a long time, but what doesn't last too long in my garden is bachelor buttons. I love bachelor buttons. They press beautifully, they maintain color. These are all bachelor buttons. And so I can get pretty excited when I see one come to bloom. In fact, I've been known to stop mowing, start collecting, go inside, press, and a half hour later, just to find out that my mower is still running, and wonder why it takes me so long to mow a lawn. But with the price of gas, I'm going to have to be more careful about that. But I press the flowers when they first come out, while they're fresh. In other words, if I can press one of these the day it opens up or the next day, I'm happy, but toward the end of its cycle, it doesn't look so well. And I don't know why, but my bachelor buttons don't seem to last for weeks and weeks. So as soon as I see them, I just start collecting. Now, I collect and press immediately. You can't leave it for another day, because, as flowers will wilt. So I'll go inside, and I don't know if you can hear me moving around this. Can you still hear me without the mic?
You can take the microphone off.
I can take the microphone. Well, maybe I'll just move myself. Would you believe yesterday morning, I mean, I am not obsessed, am I? I want to say I'm passionate. yesterday, as I was getting my rubbish, bringing my rubbish in, I saw these Johnny Jump Ups in bloom. I pressed these yesterday morning, and I could use them because my supply is dwindling. But I'll pass these around if you want to take a look at it. But most importantly, when you put your flower down, how you set it up is how it's going to come out. And then after it's pressed, you're not going to be able to change things. So take care in making sure the leaves, the petals are all down flat, so you'll have a nice end product. What I did is I brought them indoors, and I put them face down, and generally try to keep the leaves all going in, petals all going in one direction, because when I fold this over, if it's sticking up a little bit, this paper will flatten it out for me. So I have them all going in one direction, and I also do leaves. Is that a special kind of paper? No, I'll tell you about that. I also press leaves because I use a lot of leaves. Okay, so then I put them on this paper. You can use tissue, white tissue. This was something that I had purchased, and it was wrapped in this. And I've become very covetous of this paper now. You can use copy paper, white paper. I like to have something that has a fold, otherwise you start losing your material. So I recycle. This is Wilmer's Chemist catalog. But what I love about this is this paper is very absorbent. So I save anything that comes in the mail. I'm a real recycler when it comes to this. Anything that comes in the mail that has thickness to it and the paper is absorbent. And it can't be the glossy stuff. So I'll take this now, put it in here. Now this happens to be thick enough, but if it's not in a book, and it's in a little flyer like this, then I'll stick this through a big wad of thick newspaper. Now, of course, the reason for this is because these will exude a lot of moisture, and the more absorbency around it, the better your finished product. So here we go. I take this now, and I take a weight, which is microwavable, which is a tile. I use a larger size one because I'm working in larger quantities. And I just put this on here as a weight, and I zap this this went in for 1 minute and 40 seconds yesterday. Now that beats 3, 4, 5 weeks in a book. And then you have to remember where did you put all this. So that's the process of pressing flowers. Simple as that. These are the kind of books, you know, if you have stock and you have the annual reports. Oh, boy. I tell you, I thank the Harbor Fund and everyone else who sends me these. I have them all stacked up. If anyone saw these, they say, wow, she's really into investing. No, I'm into pressing. So that's what I use them for.
What would you do with a thicker flower or a flower that has a bigger...
I avoid them. I'll tell you, any flower, for instance, a daisy that has a fixed center, do not press that well. You can work with them, and you may have to put 2 or 3 tiles down to flatten that center. Okay? Oftentimes I'll do 2 tiles. Now, something as delicate as a pansy, Johnny Jump Up doesn't require that weight. And actually, you don't want anything too heavy because that will adhere to your paper and you won't be able to pull it off. So ordinarily, 1 tile is sufficient, but something with a heavy center too. The other thing is you can take a flower apart and then reconstruct it. And I've done that. For instance, carnations. I'll pull off petals. There's a carnation here. This is a note card I did. And if you come up and look at it later, these are petals from a carnation. Now, I just use the petal. However, you can put them all together to have a flower again. And this is what I said before, patience. You don't have it, ladies. Go get some before you start it. I don't know where you buy it, but anyway. So that's, let's see, what else do I need to tell you? Oh, and then once they're pressed, you need to keep them in a cool, dark place. I mean, where do I put mine? Because I do things on a large scale because I have craft shows. I have mine sort of categorized by color. So I keep them, what I do is I'll keep them right in here, and I write on it Johnny Jump Ups or pansies, and I date it. And then I'll put all my pansies together. So I'll have a stack of pansies, and I put these in a note folder. So I have a folder for pansies and lobelia and this and that and everything else. I experiment a lot, and I encourage you, if you're going to try this, just try pressing anything, you know, that doesn't belong to someone else. But I'm amazed. There are things that I press, come to think of it, that aren't on that list. But I'll admit that you don't want me in your garden. You might see me plucking your flowers. No, I was on a trip to Ireland, and I saw this teeny little blue flower that I absolutely loved, and I had to have it. But it wasn't in someone's garden. It was in the, you know, just in the general wild, right. Well, I took, and actually I did this 3 times. I have a yellow, I have a blue, and I have a pink. And I took it, and the person with me said, uh-oh, there she goes again. And I had a book with me, and I had some Kleenex tissue. Well, I put it between the tissue. Then we were traveling by car, put it in the book, and I sat on it. And I said, this is going to be the best pressed flower ever with my weight. So it was wonderful. And I brought it home, and I have used it. In fact, the lady who was with me had a birthday, and I used those flowers in this arrangement that I had made for her, and with a little note on the back of it. It was just reminiscent of our time together in Ireland. So I'm always on the lookout. When I see anything that you would put a picture in, now most people would put a picture in, everyone would put pictures in these. I don't. I think, oh, how can I arrange a flower, how can I do a pressed flower in that, or whatever. For instance, a perfect example, when I saw this frame, I love the frame, I love the matting, and I immediately picked it up to purchase it. The person with me said, now what would you do with that? I said, well, don't you see? It says L-O-V-E. I mean, you need to have a little vision. And it's amazing how I surprise myself, honestly, because your creative juices just flow once you get into something like this. For instance, I'll do something and I'll say, now, why didn't I think of that last year? Well, I guess God wasn't ready for me to do that. But I now look at anything framed or anything that would hold a picture in a totally different light. I mean, I never think photos. I think flowers. So, any questions on pressing flowers?
Do they ever lose their color?
Yeah, Lydia. Excuse me? Do they lose their color?
Do they lose their color when they're pressed? And if so, do you ever put dyes on them or try to enhance the color?
These flowers do not lose their color.
They don't?
No. If you expose them to bright sunlight, or put them, if you put it in under a lamp, for instance, for a long period of time, it will eventually fade a bit. However, in fact, I was going to bring something with me that I did. It was the very first piece I ever made. I just didn't know what I was doing, but it came out pretty good. 6 years, and I look at it and I see it has faded, but everything faded, and it's still very nice. Well, I keep it because it was my very, very first. There are certain flowers that do not hold their color, and so they're not on that list. But everything on this list holds its color. Lobelia is one of my most favorite. Larkspur, this blue larkspur, never loses its color. So the only thing that I ever spray is, on occasion, greenery. Because, thank you, Carol. Some greenery turns sort of like olive green, but I'll show you this.
You have some ferns here.
Now this takes me to another subject, and just tell me to be quiet when I've exhausted my allotted time. But when I shop for frames, as I said, I look at them in a totally different way these days. I saw this and I immediately thought, that's going to be for Fern, and it's going to possibly be for a man. Well, no, first I thought, the frame is masculine enough that a gentleman could have in his office or on his desk. And then I thought, well, I'm not going to put flowers in it if it's for a gentleman, so I decided to put the fern in. I think this is appropriate for a man. Don't you think in his office? I made a set of them. I have two. One I use fern, and this is lutea. This is from the Corydalis in the family. Now, do you see how they are shaped? I knew what I wanted to do with these when I pressed them. So when I press them in this shape, one going one way, one the other, and one straight, because I knew I wanted to put it in here. But if I decided this after the fact, there was no way that I was going to reshape it. So you have to have a vision and an idea of what you'd like to do with your frame. And I really encourage you to try it. This has brought me so much joy. I absolutely love this craft. Now, let's see where I'm at my program. Oh, any other questions?
I have a question, Lydia. Now, you press the flowers, that's all very clear, and it seems pretty easy. Then when the flowers are dry, how do you adhere them?
Well, that will be in my demo, but if I don't get a chance to do a demo,
okay.
I use, and it's on this material list, which we can pass out. I use Elmer's glue, diluted. Okay, I use diluted Elmer's glue for most part 50-50, 50 water, 50 glue, or a little over, little more glue than water. Some flowers, like roses, I have a wonderful plant. It's called the fairy. You've probably heard of it. I love that. That needs a little heavier glue to press down. So I maybe do 75-25. I use a fine paintbrush, and I actually paint the back of the flower. And through trial and error, you'll realize how much glue and how much, not to use. Sometimes you may just tip the edge. Rather than an entire flower, you may just want to tip the edge of the petals, and you put them down. I use, I use only acid-free paper. This way, it will not, it's archival, it will not yellow and deteriorate. I use artist watercolor paper. You don't need the most expensive type. It's pH neutral, and it does say acid-free. And this is what watercolor artists choose. Now, if I'm using a small frame with a delicate flower, I don't have to use a heavyweight paper. But this is what I use. Watercolor paper. I can pass this book around if anyone's interested in thinking I'll leave it here. But my process, and I'm going to show you this in a demo, I always use the glass frame, the glass of the frame, to cut take the glass out of here. The glass is the size paper I need. And then I put this back in and trace the outside of the frame. So I know that's my border, that I can't go beyond that when I'm putting the flower down. This will be easy to show you. Then I have glue, and I have water. My most precious possession are these tweezers. I pick everything up with the tweezer. I place it with the tweezer. And you might need a little scissor and a paintbrush. Not very much. Pencil. So I'll paint the back. First of all, I have to have in my mind an idea of what I'm trying to create. I put everything down on paper first, without glue. Then I take it all off, and I start over with, yes, patience. That's why I said patience. For instance, when I do a heart, it takes quite a bit of time because you're searching through your supplies and you're putting leaves down and flowers, and it's not until I get this entirely down, dry, then I push it all off. Now, I've already made a heart-shaping pencil and partially erased it because I don't want pencil marks to show. But I'll make a heart in pencil. Then I'll take these flowers with my trusty tweezer and place them all. And it takes hours to do one of these, hours. Then I place them one by one. I'll glue them and put them down. And that's all there is to it. I would like to show you, let me see where I'm at, if I forgot anything I wanted to tell you. I was just saying, oh yes, before I want to go into this, any other questions on the process and preserving of the pressed flower, process of pressing, collecting?
So you don't spray anything over it once you set it down?
Well, recently I have sprayed it. I came across this just again with divine intervention. I now spray all my work with a clear ultraviolet retardant spray that I found, just happened to come across it in a store like A.C. Moore or Michael's. I now have to order it special because it's not on the shelves. But photographers and I don't know who else uses it, but I do. And I spray everything with that ultraviolet retardant. And if you're just going to do one or two pieces, you could probably have it framed in ultraviolet retardant glass. But I couldn't do that for the volume that I have. But if, let's say you just wanted to do a heart, what I have done is, let me see if one's here. Yeah. Here's a heart that I did for bride and groom. And I caution you, if you're going to do anything with calligraphy, or it doesn't have to be calligraphy, it could be just good penmanship, do your writing first. Because what you don't want to do is spend 3 hours or so doing a heart and only to get one little splatter of ink and you have just lost all that work. So I have been doing now of late, as I said, one thing goes into another. And you might bring this to a totally different level than I've done. I mean, I'm limited only by my gray matter, but everyone has a little different amount. And but of late, I've been making pieces with sayings. So a single rose can be my garden, a single friend my world. I'll pass some of these along. For instance, as I was saying, I let the frame dictate. I saw this frame. It's a cupcake with a candle. And what came across my mind was, happy birthday. So, that's what I did. Now, when at a craft show, what I do, and you'll see on the tags, is I list every flower I've used in it. It tells you, I put a little tag, and I advise them to keep it out of sunlight. And then I tell them what flower I've used. This just says bachelor button. But the reason I'm fussy about my frames is because it has to motivate me. I mean, if it doesn't motivate me, it's going to sit on the shelf.
Where do you buy your frames?
Well, a lot of them I buy wholesale. I send away for them, California, or sometimes I'll just be in a store and see a nice frame that I'll pick it up. Now, I've recently been incorporating a little, and this is really little artwork, I did a little watercolor pot. Rather than just put flowers on a piece of paper, I painted a little pot and then put my flowers in it. And when I said I let the frame motivate me, I saw this little frame and it's purple. Well, I had so many purple blue larkspur that it was a wonderful way for me to use the larkspur. Something else. These frames I get from California, they're pewter. Well, it's an angel. And so I went on the internet for sayings. Well, you can find everything on the net. And I came across this saying that just fit perfectly into this frame, proportionately. It says, plant an angel in your heart and love will grow. Well, I thought, isn't that wonderful for my little angel frame? And I think this is so nice to give a young girl. And so then I embellished it with a little heart. So I'll pass this along. When I saw this frame, I just thought Victorian. Absolutely. So my little fairy rose went into this one.
Lydia, when you dry the roses, do they become flattened also, or do they stay like that?
As flat as this.
Yeah.
Well, here's something I just recently did. I started, I love this saying, by the way, God gave us mothers, and God tried to be fair. But when God gave me my mother, I got more than my share. I love this saying. So this particular one, I just embellished the mat.
Yes. I just had a question.
Yes.
You said you treat the green. What do you paint?
Oh, the
with?
green, yes. For instance, this greenery, there's product on the market, you've probably seen it. It's in the floral section of one of these big craft shows, and this is a floral spray paint. Yeah. It adds color, and it will always stay this way. And it's the only color I use is on the greenery.
How do you make the same color green as
Well, it only took me months to find out. This color, for those of you who want to try, it's called basil. I've tried a lot of greens, but this is basil. And that's what the color's on the can. I think it says floral, I don't know what it says, but it's a spray can. And it's in the floral department of the craft shows. Ladies, I think I've shared everything with you that I have learned and know.